going on, y'all? Aquan here, back with another video. Here today to give you my reaction or my review to the long-awaited Nicki Minaj album, Pink Friday 2. So, let's talk about this a little bit because there's a lot of opinions I've already seen, so I want to get all that out the way. First off, my initial opinions on Nicki. I am a Nicki fan. I always generally appreciated her talent and what she brought to the New York music scene, but really became invested in her music as a fan in 2020 or 2021 when I re-listened to Pink Print and really began to see her music in a different light. And I was able to appreciate the things that she brought to the table objectively without being muddled down, without sort of the her presenting them in a feminine way stopping me from enjoying things such as her vulnerabilities, things such as her lyricism, things such as her competitiveness, and her talent as an artist and a creative really began to shine through. Doesn't mean that I thought that she was a perfect artist, but I was very appreciative of her choices stylistically. That being said, I'm not afraid to criticize Nicki, and I will be the first to tell you that going through her discography, Queen was definitely a bit of a low light, and that's where we got left off before Pink Friday 2. Queen had, you know, pretty mediocre bars, not as much vulnerability, and pretty bad singing performances. And while there were cool moments, such as the Foxy Brown moment, the moment where she interpolated Biggie, and even being able to keep up with Eminem lyrically, to where I feel like the song Majesty is overall even. Overall, the record just didn't have the consistency of a normal Nicki record, and a lot of the songs fell out of rotation pretty quickly. That being said, Nicki has kind of done the impossible, aka despite being outsold in 2018, she has somehow felt like the biggest female act for the past 5 years, despite the explosion of other female artists such as Doja Cat, Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, and City Girls. There still does feel like there's this overarching feeling that Nicki is still far and away the biggest. And we got to give credit to the features and the singles and stuff like that. A lot of people talk about the presence that J. Cole has had without having an album out for the past couple of years. But I think Nicki really was doing that years before we talk about, Cole with Johnny P's Caddy and things of that nature. And so for that, I've got to give her props. It hasn't felt like Nicki has been gone for 5 years, despite that being the time frame. Going into this album, I was pretty excited. Super Freaky Girl was to me a solid song. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but it was fine to me. Decent catchy record, cool sample flip. A little bit cheap on the sample flip, but it is what it is. And the lines and the bars was cool to me. Then we get Red Ruby to Sleaze, which is one of the greatest Nicki tracks I've ever heard. It felt like her singing and her vocals were back, to maybe Pink Friday levels, not quite Pink Print, but Pink Friday levels of vocal talent. And the bars were absolutely incredible on this song. Then we got Last Time I Saw You, that's where to me things got interesting. This is where we really got a sense for Nicki's current state vocally. And the reason I describe it like that is because I feel like over the course of years, rappers possess a certain level of vocal ability that tends to deteriorate over time. Some people are able to keep it up, some people aren't. And we kind of got a sense that while this wouldn't be as robotic and as reverb, autotune heavy as Queen, it definitely wasn't going to be as crazy as a grand piano. That being said, there were still solid enough vocals that made for a really enjoyable song. And we also got some vulnerability lyrically around the nature of relationship dynamics and regret and sorrow and pain. So going into this, I can say that my expectations were high but not astronomical. And overall, I'm happy to say that my expectations were overall met, and I'm pretty happy with the album. So yeah, let's get into it. So starting off with the production, this was probably the most shaky area for Nicki up to this point. I've never really enjoyed Nicki's production all that much up to this point, and with a lot of unsavory sample trends, we were kind of wondering what her choices were going to be. And overall, I would say she did a pretty great job. I really liked some of the sample flips were good, some of the sample flips weren't good. I thought Red Ruby the Sleaze and the song with J. Cole, Let's Calm Down, were pretty good. That being said, the song Pink Friday Girls, that beat was kind of whatever to me, and I wasn't crazy about the beat for everybody. Like, I get it, it's a dance song, but it still just wasn't. Yeah. I really like the inclusions of ATL Jacob on here. I felt like his beats on FTU, FTCU, and other songs were really, really good. I overall felt like the Afro beats slash Caribbean songs were really solid, and there were not a lot of weak beats up until the end, where we have songs like Bam Bam and My Life. That being said, she picks it back up with awesome production for the gospel track that I really, really, really enjoyed. And so overall, I think with this you're getting so overall I would say you're getting some sample flips, some island type music. You're getting some solid trap music, a little bit of gospel and more introspective type music. When it comes to the production front, but overall, I feel like most of the styles here were executed pretty well. Like I said, there were a couple of duds and mediocre beats reminiscent of some of her other projects, but overall, this definitely felt like a step up production wise. Going into the writing, and this is where like I'm going to buck the trend of what I feel like is dang near everybody right now and say that it was amazing. There was so much ground covered on this album, and despite the fact that I'm going to talk a little bit later about why, for certain other reasons, I think this album was a little too long. Um, Writing wise, she filled it out pretty well. We have plenty of songs about braggadocio being better than everybody, which hit a little bit different because she has been so dominant with no album out for so long, and she is truly the sort of mother, almost like a Mother Teresa to like the rest of rap in terms of being just so influential, and people and pretty much all of the female rappers, being deviations or derivatives of all of the things that she brought to the table. And so I really enjoyed her braggadocio on songs like Red Ruby the Sleaze and Barbie Dangerous and FTCU. And I think it harkens back to old hip hop traditions such as Rakim. I really enjoyed her vulnerability on songs like Let's Calm Down, Are You Gone Already, and Blessings. I feel like one of the things that I really like is that, when we talk about competitiveness and hunger, right? And it's really cool to feel like she sounds like she has the hunger and fight of the younger rappers who she's supposedly competing with, but then has the maturity and vulnerability of someone, that would match, I think she's like 41. Recently she turned 41. That would match, a 41-year-old. She's getting into things like motherhood and the mistakes that she may have made in relationship dynamics. And so it's really cool that we kind of get the best of both worlds. We get the hungry Nicki that she's been giving us for the past 10 years on top of this maturity and this growth. Now, obviously, it's not the same as, say, what we talk about when we talk about Kendrick Lamar, but it was still nice to see her delve into those topics, especially like motherhood. And then, of course, you have your like regular raunchy songs, which are fine to me. Lyrically, she does a pretty good job on those songs. Again, I don't take much issue with songs like Super Freaky Girl and Cowgirl. Um, and things of that nature. But I really thought she brought good presence, good vocal inflections, and the punchlines were serviceable. And so, for everything that she covered on this album, and for the amount of different ranges and modes that she was able to activate, I definitely would say her writing was amazing on this album. Getting into the flows and vocals, this is where I got to give it a grade. Obviously, Nicki don't play with the flows. She's got the fast triplet flows. She's got the slowed down, more meditative flows. She's got her accents, which she brings out, whether it be her like different, whether it be her different characters or just emphasizing her accent being from Trinidad. There was a lot of different personalities we saw on this album. That being said, the vocals were passable. They were fine. They weren't extremely bad, nor did they stop me from enjoying the lyrics, but they weren't exactly good. I really like how Screwface John said it. They were maybe like a step up from crooning. And, you could still very much hear the assistance, the auto tune, and things of that nature. But it still made for and given that vocals was such a big part of this album, they were just okay in my opinion, the vocals. And so yeah, in my opinion, if we were to start canceling stuff out, I would say that the flows and accents and stuff makes it amazing, but then the vocals being just good and both of them taking up such a large percentage of the album kind of levels it out to just being great. It was great. There were a lot of singing choruses on here. And overall, I felt like the majority of the melodies were well executed. And she had plenty of different song ideas, like stuff like Cowgirl and and Needle. And we'll talk about the features in a sec. But from Forward from Trini, we had Falling for You. These are all different songs with singing choruses. Let's Calm Down, which is a top 3 record off the album. I absolutely love that one in general. But overall, I feel like she has a solid, diverse set of melodies and doesn't sacrifice her rapping to do it. It doesn't feel like we have to engage with her singing because we're not going to get good rapping, as like most artists might do. She gives us the great rapping with the passable singing, which is really, really nice. Next we have musical execution, and it was hard at first. I was going to give this an amazing, but after re-looking at it, I'm going to give it a great. Overall, I feel like there were just too many repeat song ideas. This album was just far too long for me to give it an amazing in the musical execution department. I really enjoyed how pretty much all of the songs sounded. I didn't really feel like there was any like huge, massive miss for me. There was nothing that I listened to besides maybe Pink Friday Girls and Bam Bam, where I was just like, man, turn this off. And going 20 for 22 is amazing, but there was like that stretch of songs that were just like all sample flips, and I'm just like, you could have chose maybe 2 of these, or maybe 1 of these. Like, to me, out of all of those sample flips, Super Freaky Girl, Red Ruby the Sleaze, Pink Friday Girls, and Everybody, I really would have just, if you had just taken the rest of those off and just taken Red Ruby the Sleaze, I would have been cool with that. I would have think that, I thought the album would have been a lot better for that. And I think eventually with Nicki albums, while I don't want to fall into the, habit of critiquing her for repetitive subject matter, because plenty of well-respected artists have repetitive subject matter. I will say that it's harder to have repetitive subject matter over such a long album. Most of the people who have repetitive subject matter generally don't go beyond 16 songs, which makes it a lot more serviceable. And yeah, so when it comes to musical execution, like I said, it's still great. No immediate misses besides the 2 that I mentioned, and she overall came with a lot of variation and clearly showed off a lot of versatility. But There was just a sizable chunk of songs that I would have cut out, in my personal opinion. Finally, let's talk about the features, and this is the next amazing that I'm gonna say. I really enjoyed the pretty much all of the features, and again, while this may come as a shock because a lot of people I've heard like this feature, honestly, the Uzi one was the only underwhelming one to me. This is coming from someone who was never crazy about Just Wanna Rock as a song. Keep that in mind. But I don't know, like everybody, I feel like Nicki had a stronger performance, and Uzi, it was fine, it was passable, but compared to what we got from the other artists, it feels like it doesn't really measure up. Now, let's get into those other artists. First off, Drake, for me, is Drake, a culture vulture for this, feature on Needle? Yeah. Is he faking the funk on an accent that he doesn't normally speak with? Yeah. But I really like his melody on the song, and it definitely works. It definitely musically, I think, works, and his vocals are passable, and it makes for a solid and bumpable song, in my opinion. And overall, a listen that I really enjoyed. J. Cole, again, I don't know what to say, bro. I don't know. J. Cole doesn't miss. He just doesn't on features. And it was really cool to see him. I think what makes him one of the greatest feature artists of all time is that he sticks to subject matter so well. This song was about the turmoil that Nicki was having with her husband, about her child, and J. Cole acts as a mediator, talking about the difficulties of long-term partnership and the importance of problem solving and working through things together and compromising. He speaks to how so many long-standing celebrity couples have died out, and also gives a little bit of commentary on what he actually thinks. Obviously, there's Will and Jada like going crazy, in the news or whatever, and on Cole's biggest song, he is quoted as saying that Jada and that Will love. And so he gives his commentary on like what he feels about this new sort of epidemic, and he feels like, I'm tired of people talking about it. Leave them alone and let them handle what they need to handle. And I generally agree. I do feel like, if they weren't shoving it in our faces, then maybe we wouldn't have as much to say. But, overall, I agree with the sentiment that it really isn't much of our business what other people are doing. And it definitely reflects a general sentiment I've had over the course of the years of just being over celebrity culture and being so concerned with how celebrities behave in their like intimate relationships. I'm just over it, and I just don't care. As long as you're not doing anything illegal, I don't care. We get Future and Nicki, which honestly makes me sad that the supposed Nicki and Future collab never really came, because they come with a surprising amount of chemistry, trading back and forth relationship bars, and just incomplete understandings of how they're supposed to engage with their partners. And that, to me, that's what Future does so well in his music, and he does that with Nicki. Instrumentally and musically, they go pretty well together as well. Future gets into his melodic bag pretty well, and overall, it's this very drunken, drugged out experience that I think Future is at the helm of, but Nicki engages with pretty well. Of course, I believe her name is Tinashe or Tinasha on Blessings was super solid. Really enjoyed what she offered, and again, I love to see people, she wanted to engage with gospel sounds, so she got what seemed like a gospel artist to properly engage with those sounds. You have Lord Diz, I think is her name, on Cowgirl. I don't know how to say that, but she did her thing. Great vocals, really enjoyed that. And Cowgirl is generally a song I like. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I don't know. I think it's pretty good. The vocals are fine. The rapping is good. R&B was solid. R&B was solid. Great Wayne verse. Nicki's singing again, solid, passable. And Tink went off. I really liked Tink. He like his like diction almost reminds me of Tory Lanez a little bit. But his rapping was like very precise and like it felt like he was extremely well mixed. I don't, yeah, it felt like he was extremely well mixed. So overall, like the features were extremely strong. I would give that an amazing. They were really well placed. No one felt like they didn't need to be on the song that they were on. And overall, the sums of the songs with features felt like something greater than the sum of their parts. So songs like Future, again, it felt like it was an entire full tapestry of a song rather than just us getting Nicki and Future. Cole, it felt like us getting a song about maturation, childhood, and moving through marriage as an entire project rather than just Nicki and Cole going off and blah 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 blah. So yeah, overall I really enjoyed the features, and overall I thought this record was great. It's definitely not amazing. It's definitely a little bit too long in my opinion, and I wish that there was overall it was a little bit too long, but I thought that this was a really solid composite of songs and a great way for Nicki to come back into the mainstream after a 5 year hiatus. It's really great to see Nicki still hungry, still fighting, still rapping at a very high level and putting out great music. And it's also nice to see her embrace her old age. I wish some artists, and you probably know who I'm talking about, would be more comfortable embracing their older age in rap music as well. Hope y'all enjoyed this review. Let me know what y'all thought of this in the comment section below. And with that being said, peace, y'all.